Hi everyone, my name is Betty and my goal is to help you see through the lens of Feng Shui so you can make the best decision on how you interact with your space. In this video, I will talk about the Feng Shui of your kitchen. Many people consider the kitchen as the heart center of a home. It is typically where friends and families gather to connect and catch up. Even in offices, people tend to congregate around the kitchenette or the pantry area to chat and take a break. Whatever the setting, the kitchen typically has the most activity. It is a very yang area either through cooking or through foot traffic. In the past, how much food you had in your kitchen dictated how well off your family was. It represented your wealth and your resources. Nowadays, a person with an empty kitchen doesn't mean they are poor. Instead of judging their wealth by how much food they have, we tend to judge wealth by how nice their kitchen is, how big it is, and what kind of appliances they have. So, as our representation of wealth shifts from the amount of food in our kitchen to, let's say, our stock portfolio and social media following, let's also examine some feng shui rules and how they fit in with our modern kitchens. To start off, the kitchen as a whole represents the fire element. Back in the old days, before we had a gas or electric stove, people cooked with some version of a stone or brick oven, which they managed by burning wood and ash, and every so often they would open the door or the window to regulate the heat in the kitchen. The entire cooking process was extremely cumbersome and dangerous by today's standards. So it is not difficult to understand why feng shui have labeled the whole kitchen as the fire element. As a result, one of the most important things to check in the kitchen is determining where the fire energy is directed, which makes the stove and the door position critical to the entire layout of the kitchen. If the stove was directly aligned or visible from the front door, then a swift wind could easily put out the fire. In today's kitchen, you will see this layout more often with an open concept kitchen. The negative implication of this layout could mean instability for the household, especially the breadwinner. And one way to prevent this issue is to add tall shelving or a wall to block the view of the stove. Another way the fire energy in the kitchen can channel is if the bedroom door faces the kitchen door, or worse, if you have to pass through the kitchen to get to the bedroom. In these cases, whoever occupies that room will be subject to a disproportional amount of fire energy. This scenario worsens if the person's birth chart doesn't favor the fire element. Alternatively, in an open concept kitchen, the fire energy is dispersed in every direction. This is typically not an issue, except for any room that is really close to the kitchen or the stove. But the impact will vary depending on the particular layout and how often you cook. The center of our body represents the heart, and the same applies to our home. Another possibility with an open concept kitchen is that you risk the kitchen falling in the center palace. When the kitchen lands in the center, it is akin to fire burning at the heart center. In the long run, it will negatively impact your heart health. If this is your current layout, moving the kitchen away from the center will be a significant undertaking. One way to minimize the effect is to cook less frequently or use a portable stove and cook elsewhere. If you have plans to renovate the kitchen in the future, you can minimize the effect by moving the stove away from the absolute center. Another sector to avoid having your kitchen is in the northwest. The northwest represents Heaven's Gate and the male head of household. Having the kitchen in the northwest is akin to fire burning at Heaven's Gate, which will negatively impact the livelihood and career progression of the male head of household, especially father figures. But if you are a female occupying this space, this layout will not directly impact you. Since this is also a sizable structural issue, there isn't a quick remedy to minimize the effect. One thing you can consider is when you renovate in the future, consider building an extension that will push the kitchen away from the northwest sector. Now, by far, the most popular layout in modern kitchens is with the sink directly across from the stove. In the 5-element cycle, the stove represents the fire element and the sink represents the water element. These two structures align means the fire and water clash. In terms of relationship, this clash represents frequent disagreement and bickering. And from a health perspective, it will negatively impact your blood pressure and your heart health. So if you currently have this layout, then you can consider putting a green rug or 4 plants in between the sink and the stove to divert the conflicting qi. This will only help to minimize the effect, but it will not eliminate the problem entirely. Now, everything I have mentioned so far has to do with the structure of your house, which you don't have much control over, at least not immediately. But from a classical feng shui perspective, your kitchen's auspiciousness is dictated by your energetic blueprint. This aspect of feng shui has the most significant influence on your well-being, and you have control to make it better right now. If you're interested in finding out your space's energetic blueprint, you can join my feng shui lab and explore the hidden layer of your space and how it impacts your well-being. And if you like this video, you might like to check out my other video on bedroom feng shui, where I discuss everything you can do to make your bedroom better. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.